If you spend more time trying to make your story fit into things like Save the Cat or the hero's journey than actually writing, it's not your fault. These structures are making plotting harder than it needs to be. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a reason these methods are so popular. They've helped a lot of writers get organized, learn structure, and even finish their books. Honestly, I've used some of them myself over the years. They can be great for getting you started. And the underlying lesson of it all is one all writers need to learn to advance from stage 1 as a writer, the aspiring writer, to what I call stage 3, the intermediate writer. I found it can even carry someone to my own stage, which is stage 4, the skilled writer. However, as I've dug into all of these and kept growing, I found two big issues with these plot structures. These are issues I've noticed cause a lot of issues with younger writers. First off, here's something you need to know about all these different story structures. They're all just different flavors of the same basic storytelling formula. I figured this out with a little assistance from Inside the Box, a whole book on creative thinking. I applied a little something called the subtraction technique to every story structure to deconstruct it and find commonality. And what did I find after stripping away all that jargon? The basic truth we all know from day one. Stories have a beginning, a middle, and an end. A character or situation starts one way, something happens, and by the end, things have changed. Now, it's not always an external change, and it's not always a big change, but every story is about some kind of change, of transformation. The core truth of plot structure is this: they are frameworks for delivering an emotional and thematic journey. They exist to guide characters and the audience through a meaningful transformation. And it is a universal concept because of how the human mind is wired. Plot structure mirrors how we naturally process, interpret, and make sense of events in life. It doesn't matter if you're male, female, or if you identify as something that doesn't fit those categories. It doesn't matter if you're young, if you're old, if you're white, black, Asian, Latino, Arabic, whatever. It's true for all of us because we are all human. Our brains crave patterns and seek meaning in everything. No matter where you are, a satisfying story is molded from this framework and truth. So, if that's the simple core, then why do all these structures make things feel so complicated? Well, here's where it gets tricky. Knowing stories have a beginning, middle, and end is nice, but it doesn't tell you how to write a good beginning, or how to keep your middle from sagging, or how to make your ending feel like a proper payoff. Writers need guidance to fill in the gaps. That's where these structures come in. They're someone's best attempt to explain how to take the basic 3 parts of a story and make it work. I view these attempts like the parable of the blind men and the elephant. In it, a group of blindfolded men were led to an elephant and asked to describe it. One touched its side and called it a wall. Another held its trunk and called it a stake. Another held the trunk and said it was a snake. Others felt the leg, the ear, or the tail, and declared it a tree, a fan, or a rope. Naturally, they argued, each convinced they were right. A passing sage eventually explained, "You are all right and all wrong. The truth is far bigger than any one perspective." And that's the problem with story structures. They're each a piece of the narrative elephant, but not a single one captures the whole. Take the Monomyth, or hero's journey. For those who don't know it zooms in on one protagonist's internal and external journey, starting in the ordinary world, facing trials, and returning transformed. It works beautifully for a lot of stories. So what's the problem? It's almost too focused on one character's arc. Try telling a shared narrative or ensemble cast story and, suddenly, the Monomyth feels like trying to stuff 5 different heroes into one template. It just doesn't fit as neatly. Other people love to bring up Kishotenketsu. It's a 4-act structure used a lot in Japanese storytelling. The focus here is on contrast and revelation rather than conflict. You have a setup, development, twist or surprising turn, then a conclusion that ties it all together. It's great if you want to explore themes or ideas without needing an explosive climax. But for writers used to Western-style conflict-driven stories, it can feel a little, well, like nothing's happening. There's no fight, no showdown. It's subtle, maybe too subtle for some readers. Freytag's pyramid is a classic 5-act structure. Perfect for drama, but a bit too rigid for stories with non-linear timelines or multiple climaxes. Save the Cat hits all the emotional beats but can feel formulaic, like painting by numbers. Dan Harmon's story circle simplifies the hero's journey, which is great for TV and tight character arcs, but it struggles with more complex, multi-layered stories. All these people feel they have the answer. Then they argue that the others are doing it wrong, or they're different, or whatever. They insist that their truth is the only truth, as opposed to a part of a greater whole, which creates a fragmented understanding of storytelling. That's one reason why so many struggle with this. It can create rigidity, leaving little room for flexibility or acknowledgement that other frameworks might work better for certain narratives. It can lead to oversimplification, where nuance is sacrificed in favor of how-to templates. They can be cultural or contextually disconnected, which leads to deeper meaning being misunderstood or misapplied. And the thing that bothers me most is the illusion of incompatibility. It creates this unnecessary competition between schools of thought, rather than encouraging integration. It limits people's ability to see the universal patterns that unite all storytelling, that unite all of humanity. This is one of the things I wish to address near the end of this video and in further material. But before I do, we need to touch on the second issue I have, clarity, or I should say, the lack of it. I've noticed a lack of clarity at times in how these structures explain what's supposed to happen. Even the basics, beginning, middle, and end, are way too vague. Sure, they tell you a story needs those parts, but they don't tell you what's supposed to happen in each one of them. And quite a bit of terms people choose sound like they're straight out of a cryptic puzzle book. Seriously, the names they give us can be so confusing that you spend more time trying to figure out what they mean than actually writing. With the Monomyth, look at this. Meeting with the goddess. Apotheosis. Sounds epic, but it just means your character learned something. Then you've got Save the Cat with things like Dark Night of the Soul, instead of just calling it a low point. Then there's Kishotenketsu with Kishotenketsu, which, let's be honest, sounds more like martial arts moves to my Western ears than story beats. And even when switching the language, I find things like twist doesn't really get across what's going on there. So that brings me to my solution. I've worked out my way of seeing the whole elephant. It's a little something I call the 3 states of story. Think of stories like this: introduction, transformation, culmination. The process of transformation can be summarized as build to, the heart, and the impact. In this case, I mean the build to the heart of the story, and the impact of the heart. There's a whole logic surrounding why I named all of this, and there's a greater depth I'm not sharing yet, but that's all in the PDF linked within the description. Download it if you wish to go deeper. Regardless, I'm not here to reinvent the wheel. What I'm doing is giving it better traction and steering. If you'd like to take part in its evolution, show your support by pressing the like button and commenting on this video. And subscribe to the channel if you wish to collect each part of the puzzle as I release it in the community tab. Finally, if you wish to get a peek at some of the stuff which has shaped this, I recommend taking a look at these videos here.